Poor girl asks a rich man for a coat, and he makes an unexpected decision. Michael Andrew Thompson felt the weight of exhaustion as he walked along the sidewalk of New York City's business district. Another meeting that had dragged on late, another tough decision made coldly, another day where money spoke louder than any other feeling. That's when he felt a light but persistent tug on the sleeve of his camel wool coat. Turning around, he saw a girl about 9 years old, with small dreadlocks and clothes that had clearly seen better days. "Sir, please, can you give me your coat?" she asked, her voice trembling, not just from the cold, but from nervousness. Michael felt a mix of irritation and haste. He had important dinners, social commitments he couldn't delay. His meetings with Chinese investors waited for no one. "Look, kid, I don't have time for this right now," he replied, trying to gently pull away from the small hand still gripping his coat, but she didn't let go. Her big, expressive eyes stared at him with an intensity that unsettled him. "Your name is Michael Andrew Thompson, isn't it?" she asked, leaving him completely stunned. "How do you know my name?" he asked, stopping in his tracks. "My grandma always talked about you. She said you were different from the rest of the family, that you had a good heart, even when you pretended not to." A shiver ran down Michael's spine, one that had nothing to do with the chilly New York night. Those words carried a weight he couldn't explain. "Who's your grandmother?" he asked, now genuinely curious. "Dorothy. She worked in your family's house for 20 years, until the day they sent her away." The name hit Michael like a punch to the gut. Dorothy. He vaguely remembered her, a woman always smiling, who cared for the family home with a tenderness his own mother had never shown. "Dorothy," he murmured, memories slowly forming in his mind. "She always said you were the only one who treated her like a person, that you always asked how she was if she needed anything. My grandma is very sick, sir. She needs expensive medicine we can't afford." The girl spoke with a seriousness that clashed brutally with her age. There was a forced maturity in her eyes that Michael recognized as the result of a life too hard for someone so young. "And you think asking for my coat will solve your grandma's problem?" he asked, still trying to process everything. "No, sir, but it's winter and you have plenty of coats. I saw the magazine that featured your house. My grandma always cut out your pictures from the paper. She said one day you'd understand what she always tried to teach you." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. Michael glanced around, noticing people starting to watch the scene. Well-dressed executives passed by, giving disapproving looks. The situation was becoming awkward. "Listen, I'm not sure what you want from me, but I just want you to give me a chance to explain. That's all. 5 minutes of your time." There was something in her voice that touched a part of him long buried. Maybe it was the determination, or maybe the barely hidden desperation. He looked at the expensive watch on his wrist and sighed. 5 minutes, he said, heading to a nearby bench. The girl followed, still discreetly holding onto his coat sleeve, as if afraid he might vanish at any moment. "What's your name?" Michael asked as he sat down. "Emily Grace." "But everyone calls me Grace." "Grace," he repeated, noticing how the name seemed to match the strength she carried. "Now tell me properly about your grandmother." Grace took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "My grandma was sent away from your family's house 10 years ago. She never told me the real reason, only that it was a misunderstanding. But I know she never got another good job after that." Michael Andrew Thompson tried to recall that time. 10 years ago, he was still finishing college, spending most of his time studying abroad. He vaguely remembered his mother, Catherine Thompson, mentioning she had let the housekeeper go, but he'd never paid much attention to it. "And your grandmother, how is she now?" "She has diabetes, sir. Needs insulin every day and the medicine is very expensive. She's already lost some of her vision, and the doctors say it could get worse if she doesn't get the right treatment." Grace's voice began to tremble, but she quickly steadied herself. "I sell candy at the stoplight, sir. I wake up at 5 in the morning to go to Hunts Point Market to buy supplies and stay out late selling. But it's never enough. It's never enough." Michael felt a growing discomfort. This girl, who should be playing and studying, was out on the streets working to support her sick grandmother. The image clashed brutally with his own childhood, surrounded by luxury and care. "Why aren't you in school?" he asked. "I am, sir. I study in the morning and work in the afternoon and evening. It's not easy, but my grandma always says that without an education, you don't get anywhere." The girl's dedication impressed him. She was trying to balance school and work, something he'd never had to do. "And why did you come to me? Why not ask others who could help?" Grace looked at him with an expression mixing hope and despair. "Because my grandma always said you were different, that you had a good heart. She told me when you were little you always shared your snack with her when she didn't have anything to eat." Michael stopped. The memory hit him hard. He really had done that as a child. Dorothy sometimes forgot to bring food to work, and he, without anyone noticing, always left half his snack for her. "You remember that?" he asked, surprised. "She told me that story all the time. Said even as a child you had a generous heart, that you just needed to remember it again." For a moment, Michael saw himself as that boy who cared about others. When had he lost that? When had he become so cold and calculating? "Grace, he began, but was interrupted by the insistent ringing of his phone. It was Jennifer, his personal assistant. "Michael, where are you? The dinner with the Chinese investors started 15 minutes ago. They're asking for you." He looked at Grace, who waited patiently. "I'll be there in a few minutes," he replied, hanging up. "You should go," Grace said, standing up. "Thank you for listening to me." She started to walk away, but Michael called out, "Grace, wait." She turned, her eyes shining with hope. Michael took off his coat and handed it to her. "Take this, it's cold." Grace looked at the coat as if it were a treasure. Her hands shook as she took it. "Thank you, sir. Thank you so much." "Where do you live?" he asked, feeling he couldn't just walk away. "In the South Bronx, sir, near the terminal." Michael knew the area, one of the poorest parts of New York City, where public transportation was unreliable and opportunities were scarce. "How did you get here?" "By bus. It took me almost 2 hours." The determination of that girl impressed him more and more. She had crossed the entire city trying to find him, driven only by the hope that he could help. "Listen, Grace, I have to go now, but can you come here tomorrow? Same time?" Her eyes lit up. "Yes, sir. Will you help me?" "I'll see what I can do," he replied, careful not to commit too much. Grace put on the coat, which was far too big for her, but seemed to warm her not just physically but emotionally too. "My grandma always said you were a good man. Now I understand why." Michael Andrew Thompson watched as she walked away, heading toward the bus stop. The camel wool coat stood out in the crowd, and he kept his eyes on her until she disappeared among the people. The whole way to the restaurant, Michael couldn't stop thinking about his conversation with Grace. Her words echoed in his mind, especially the memories about Dorothy and the boy he used to be. Dinner with the Chinese investors was a disaster. Michael was distracted, answering questions about the company's projects mechanically. His mind kept drifting back to the girl in the oversized coat and the sick grandmother he barely remembered. "Michael, are you okay?" asked Jennifer, his assistant, as they left the restaurant. "I'm fine," he said, though they both knew it wasn't true. "The Chinese seemed disappointed with your presentation. They expected more enthusiasm." "I know. I'll make it up in the next meeting." Jennifer studied him carefully. She had worked for Michael for 5 years and knew his moods well. She rarely saw him so distracted. "Did something happen?" she asked. Michael hesitated. How could he explain that a 9-year-old girl had affected him more than any $1-million deal? "Nothing important," he replied, getting into the car. But the entire drive to his penthouse on the Upper East Side, Michael couldn't get Grace out of his head. There was something about that girl that unsettled him, not in a bad way, but in a way that made him question his own choices. When he got home, he went straight to his private office. He turned on his computer and started searching for information about Dorothy. He had vague records of all the employees who had worked for his family. After an hour of searching, he found her file. Dorothy Wilson Baker, 45 years old when she was fired, 20 years of service to the family. The reason for dismissal was listed as inappropriate conduct, but there were no further details. Michael picked up the phone and called his mother. "Mom, I need to talk to you about a former employee, Dorothy Wilson Baker. Do you remember her?" "Dorothy?" Catherine Thompson's voice tensed. "Why are you asking about her?" "I just want to know why she was fired." "That was a long time ago, Michael. Why are you interested in this now?" "Mom, just answer me. Why was she fired?" Catherine sighed on the other end of the line. "She was doing things she shouldn't have, going through papers that weren't her business. I couldn't keep someone like that in the house." "What kind of papers?" "Michael, this isn't your concern. I made the right decision at the time." "What kind of papers, Mom?" he pressed. "Company documents, contracts. She had no business looking through them." Michael knew his mother was hiding something. He recognized that evasive tone. "Mom, I met her granddaughter today." "Met her? The girl said Dorothy is very sick." "And what does that have to do with us?" Catherine asked coldly. "She worked for our family for 20 years. I think we have some responsibility." "We owe her nothing. She was fired with just cause." "What was the exact just cause?" Catherine stayed silent for a moment. "Michael Andrew, I'm not going to discuss this with you. You have more important things to worry about, like your business, for example. I heard the dinner with the Chinese investors didn't go well." "How did you know that?" "I have my contacts. You need to focus on what really matters." Michael Andrew felt his irritation growing. His mother had always been controlling, but he wasn't willing to accept her evasiveness anymore. "Mom, I'm going to find out what really happened." "You'll regret it," she said before hanging up. Michael Andrews stared at the phone, more confused than before. Why was his mother being so defensive about Dorothy's dismissal? What was she hiding? He spent the rest of the night researching but found nothing more. All the documents related to the dismissal were vague and didn't clarify anything. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The next day, Michael Andrew arrived at the office earlier than usual. He had an important meeting in the morning, but his mind was focused on his meeting with Grace. "Good morning, Michael Andrew," Jennifer greeted as she entered his office. "You look tired." "I didn't sleep well," he replied, trying to focus on the papers in front of him. "The meeting with Wilson Construction is in an hour. Did you review the proposal?" Michael Andrew glanced at the documents, but the words seemed blurry. His mind was elsewhere. "Jennifer, can you reschedule that meeting for tomorrow?" "Reschedule?" She looked surprised. "But this meeting was scheduled weeks ago. It's a $50 million contract." "I know, but I have something important to take care of today." Jennifer studied him curiously. Michael Andrew never rescheduled important meetings for personal matters. "Is everything all right?" she asked. "It is. I just need to handle something." All morning, Michael Andrew tried to focus on work but couldn't. The image of Grace wearing his oversized coat wouldn't leave his mind. By mid-afternoon, he decided to leave the office early. He wanted to get to the meeting spot before Grace, so he'd have time to think about what to say. When he arrived at the park bench where they'd talked the day before, she was already there, waiting. She wore the same camel wool coat, still too big for her, but it seemed to give her confidence. "Good afternoon, Mr. Michael Andrew," she said, standing when she saw him. "Good afternoon, Grace. You're early. I didn't want to miss the chance to speak with you again." Michael Andrew sat beside her, noticing how anxious she seemed. "Grace, I want you to tell me more about your grandmother, about the time she worked for my family." Her eyes lit up. "My grandma always said those were the best years of her life. She loved working in that house, said she felt like part of the family." "And she never told you exactly why she was let go?" Grace shook her head. "She always got sad when I asked. Said it was a misunderstanding. But she didn't have the courage to try explaining. She was afraid they wouldn't believe her." "Afraid of what?" "I'm not sure, but she always said she'd found out something she wasn't supposed to. That's why they made up an excuse to send her away." Michael Andrew felt a chill down his spine. This confirmed his suspicions that his mother was hiding something. "Grace, I want to meet your grandmother. Can you take me to her?" You want to meet my grandma? She asked, her eyes shining with joy. I do. I think I need to talk to her. She'll be so happy. She always said she wanted to see you again, to know how you were doing. Michael Andrew felt a pang of guilt. Dorothy had taken care of him when he was a child, and he hadn't even asked about her when she was fired. Can we go now? He asked. Now? Grace seemed surprised. But don't you have work? There are more important things than work, he replied, surprising himself with his own words. They took Michael Andrew's car, a gleaming black Cadillac that stood in stark contrast to the neighborhood they were heading to. During the drive, Grace talked about her life with her grandmother, the hardships they faced, but always with a positivity that impressed Michael Andrew. My grandma always says no matter how hard life gets, there's always something to be grateful for, she said, looking out the window. Do you believe that? I do. We're poor, but we have each other. Some people have lots of money but no love. Her words hit Michael Andrew hard. He thought about his own life, full of luxury but empty of real relationships. When they reached South Bronx, Michael Andrew was shocked by the difference between that world and his. The streets were narrow, the houses small and cramped together. Children played in the streets, people chatted on the sidewalks, a sense of community he had never experienced. It's here, Grace said, pointing to a small brick house. Michael Andrew parked the car and looked around. Several people had noticed his presence, curiously eyeing the luxury vehicle in their neighborhood. Are you sure your grandmother will want to see me? He asked, suddenly nervous. I'm sure, Grace replied with a smile. She's always dreamed of this day. They got out of the car and walked to the front door. Grace unlocked it and called out, Grandma, I have a surprise for you. Michael Andrew followed Grace inside. The interior was small but clean and tidy. Simple furniture, cared for with love. Photos hung on the walls, and he was surprised to see several of them were of him, cut out from newspapers and magazines. Grace, who did you bring? A weak voice called from the bedroom. Grandma, it's a surprise. Close your eyes. Michael Andrew followed Grace to the bedroom. In the center was a simple bed where a gray-haired woman lay. She looked frail, thinner than he remembered, but her eyes still held the same gentle warmth. You can open your eyes now, Grandma. Dorothy opened her eyes and looked toward Michael Andrew. For a moment she seemed confused, blinking several times. Grace, who is this young man? Grandma, it's Michael Andrew, the boy you took care of. Dorothy tried to sit up, struggling. Tears filled her eyes. Michael Andrew? My boy? Hi, Dorothy, he said, stepping closer to the bed. How are you? Oh my, how you've grown. She reached out trembling hands to him. You're a man now. Michael Andrew held her hands, noticing how cold and thin they were. Dorothy, I heard you're sick. Grace told me. Oh, don't worry about that, my dear. I'm fine. Grandma, you're not fine, Grace interrupted. You need help. Dorothy looked at her granddaughter fondly. This girl worries too much about me. She should be out playing, studying, but here she is taking care of an old woman. You're not old, Grandma, and I like taking care of you. Michael Andrew watched their interaction. There was a genuine love between them, something he had rarely experienced in his own family. Dorothy, Grace told me you worked for my family for 20 years. Those were the best years of my life, she replied with a nostalgic smile. You were such a sweet boy, always caring about others. Why were you fired? He asked bluntly. Dorothy's smile faded. She looked at Grace, then at Michael Andrew. That doesn't matter anymore, my son. It was a long time ago. It does matter, Dorothy. I need to know what happened. Dorothy took a deep breath. Are you sure you want to know? I am. Then sit here, she said, patting the bed beside her. Michael Andrew sat down and waited. I found out things I shouldn't have, about your family's company, about some contracts that weren't legitimate. What kind of contracts? Contracts with the city, overpriced construction projects, money that disappeared. Your mother had been stealing from the city for years. Michael Andrew felt like he'd been punched. His mother involved in corruption. It seemed impossible. Are you sure about this? I am, my son. I saw the documents. I knew how to read. even if I was just a cleaner, and I understood numbers. What did you do? Nothing at first. I didn't know what to do. But when I saw she was stealing money meant for schools and hospitals, I couldn't stay silent. You confronted her? I did. I told her she should stop, that it was wrong. Dorothy paused, remembering the past. She was furious. Said I was just a maid, that I had no right to meddle in family business, but I insisted. Told her if she didn't stop, I'd find someone to report her to. And then she fired me. Said I'd stolen money from the house, made up a story about finding cash in my closet. Michael Andrew shook his head in disbelief. Dorothy, why didn't you ever come to me? Why didn't you try to tell me? You were just a boy back then. And later, when you grew up, you were always traveling, studying abroad. Besides, who would have believed me? A poor cleaner against a rich, powerful family. Michael Andrew felt a mix of anger and guilt. Anger at his mother for lying and hurting an innocent person. Guilt for never questioning the official story. Dorothy, I'm so sorry. I should have asked, should have looked into it. It's not your fault, my son. You were young. You had your life ahead of you. But I could have helped. Could have done something. You're doing it now, she said, squeezing his hand. So you came here. You're listening to my side. Grace, who had stayed quiet the whole time, finally spoke. Grandma, now Mr. Michael Andrew can help us, right? Dorothy gave her granddaughter a warning look. Grace, Mr. Michael Andrew doesn't owe us anything. But he's good, Grandma. You always said he had a good heart. Michael Andrew looked at the two women in front of him, Dorothy, who had been wronged by his family, and Grace, who was sacrificing her childhood to care for her grandmother. Dorothy, I want to help, not just because it's the right thing, but because you were part of who I am. You taught me values I'd forgotten. You don't have to do this, Michael Andrew. I do, and I want to. He glanced around the simple room, noticing the medicine bottles on the nightstand, the wheelchair in the corner, the stack of medical bills. First thing, you'll get the best medical care available. I'll cover all the costs. Michael Andrew, that'll be very expensive. Money isn't the problem. The problem is letting you suffer because of what my family did. Grace jumped with joy. Grandma, did you hear? You're going to get better. Easy, child, Dorothy said, but the hope in her eyes was unmistakable. Second thing, Michael Andrew continued, Grace will go to a good school. She's too smart to be selling candy on the street. Mr. Michael Andrew, I can't accept all this. Yes, you can, Dorothy, and you will. This isn't charity, it's justice. Dorothy began to cry. I always knew you were special, my son. I always knew one day you'd make a difference in someone's life. Michael Andrew Thompson felt an emotion he hadn't experienced in years. For the first time in a long while, he felt he was doing something truly important. Dorothy, I need to ask you something. Do you still have any proof of what you discovered about the contracts? Proof? Documents, photos, anything that confirms what my mother was doing. Dorothy looked at Grace, then at Michael. I kept a few things. I was afraid to throw them away in case I ever needed them. Can you show me? Of course. Grace, get that box from under the bed. Grace bent down and pulled out an old shoebox. Inside were several sheets of paper, some photographs, and a few documents. I made copies of some papers before I was fired. I knew I might need them someday. Michael examined the documents. They were city contracts, inflated budgets, bank accounts under fake names. Everything was well documented. Dorothy, this is explosive. With this evidence, my mother could be prosecuted for corruption. I don't want to hurt anyone, Michael. I just want the truth to come out. Michael spent the next few minutes reviewing the documents. Everything was there, the entire corruption scheme his mother had built. Dorothy, you know this evidence could change everything, right? I do. But I also know this could be dangerous for you. Your mother is a powerful woman. She's my mother, but that doesn't mean she's right. Michael placed the documents back in the box. Can I take these with me? I need to study them further. Of course, but promise me you'll be careful. I promise. Michael stood up from the bed. Dorothy, I'll come back tomorrow. I'll bring a doctor to examine you, and I'll arrange everything so you get the best treatment. "Thank you so much, my son. You don't know how much this means to us." "I do, and it means a lot to me too." Michael said goodbye to both of them and left the house. The entire way back he thought about the conversation he'd just had. His mother had lied to him for 10 years. She destroyed an innocent person's life to protect her own crimes. He needed to confront her. He needed the truth. When he got to his apartment, Michael called his mother. "Mom, I need to talk to you now." "Michael, it's almost 9 at night. Can't it wait until tomorrow?" "No, I need you to come here now." "Fine, I'm on my way." An hour later, Catherine Thompson arrived at her son's apartment. She was an elegant woman, always impeccably dressed, with an air of superiority that Michael now saw in a different light. "What's so urgent?" she asked, sitting in the living room. "Mum, I visited Dorothy today." Catherine's face hardened. "You did what?" "I visited Dorothy. I spoke to her. She told me the truth about why she was fired." "She lied to you. She's a thief." "No, Mom. You're the one who lied." Michael went to his office and returned with the box of documents. "She showed me this, proof of what you were doing." Catherine looked at the box and paled. "Where did she get this?" "She made copies before she was fired. She knew you'd try to destroy her reputation." "Michael, you don't understand. That was necessary to keep the company running. Stealing public money was necessary. It wasn't stealing. It was a way to speed things up. Everyone did it." "Everyone did it?" Michael was incredulous. "Mom, you stole money that should have gone to schools and hospitals." "I built an empire, Michael. I gave you a life of luxury. You never had to worry about anything. And you destroyed an innocent person's life to protect your crimes. She was going to expose us." "I couldn't let this happen." Michael Andrew Thompson shook his head. "Mom, don't you see what you did was wrong? Wrong is being poor, Michael Andrew. Wrong is not having the power to protect your family. Dorothy was sick, Mom. She lost her sight because of diabetes. She couldn't get treatment because she didn't have money for medicine. That's not my problem." "Yes, it is. You took her job unfairly. You slandered her. You destroyed her reputation." Catherine stood up, irritated. "Michael Andrew, you're being influenced by these people. They just want your money." "They want justice, Mom, something you denied them for 10 years. And what do you plan to do? Report me?" Michael Andrew looked at his mother, truly seeing her for the first time. "I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. If you report me, you'll destroy everything we've built. The company, our reputation, our name. Maybe it's time to rebuild it all on stronger foundations." Catherine walked to the door. "You'll regret this, Michael Andrew. These people will take everything you have." "Mom, you've known Dorothy for over 20 years. Did she ever ask you for anything?" Catherine stopped at the door. "She never asked for anything. She just did her job and took care of the house like it was her own." "Then why do you think she'd try to deceive me now?" Catherine didn't answer. She left, slamming the door. Michael Andrew stood alone in his apartment, staring at the box of documents. This was a turning point in his life. He could take the easy path, ignore it all, and keep living his life of luxury, or he could do the right thing, even if it meant confronting his own family. He thought of Grace, selling candy on the street to buy medicine for her grandmother. He thought of Dorothy, suffering in silence for 10 years. He thought of the boy he once was, sharing his lunch with the housekeeper. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, continuing. The next morning, Michael Andrew woke with a determination he hadn't felt in years. He knew exactly what he had to do. First stop, the hospital. He had scheduled an appointment with one of the city's best endocrinologists for Dorothy. When he arrived at the house in South Bronx, he found Grace caring for her grandmother, who seemed unwell. "Mr. Michael Andrew!" Grace exclaimed, running to the door. "Thank goodness you're here. Grandma got sick last night." "What happened?" he asked, worried. "She had a hypoglycemic episode. She ran out of insulin yesterday and didn't take any today." Michael Andrew entered the room and saw Dorothy in bed, pale and weak. "Dorothy, how are you?" Better now that you're here, my boy, she replied with a faint smile. We're taking you to the hospital right now. No need, Michael Andrew. I'm feeling better. Yes, there is. I booked an appointment with a specialist. We're going now. Michael Andrew helped Dorothy up and into clean clothes. Grace packed a bag with medicine and a few belongings. On the way to the hospital, Dorothy was amazed by the luxury car. I've never ridden in a car like this, she remarked. Grandma, Mr. Michael Andrew is very rich, Grace said. Money isn't everything, child. What matters is the heart. Michael Andrew watched their interaction in the rearview mirror. There was a wisdom in Dorothy that he admired. Even after being wronged, she carried no bitterness. At the hospital, Michael Andrew arranged a private room for Dorothy. The doctor, Dr. Richard Mitchell, conducted a full evaluation. Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Wilson's condition is serious but not irreversible. She needs regular follow-ups, proper medication, and some more specific tests. Doctor, I want her to have the best possible treatment. Cost is not an issue. Very well. I'll prescribe a new treatment protocol. With proper care, she can live a normal life. What about her vision? We can perform surgery to try and reverse some of the damage. I can't guarantee she'll see perfectly again, but there's a chance for significant improvement. Dorothy cried as she listened to the doctor's explanation. Doctor, will I be able to see my granddaughter clearly again? We'll do everything possible, Mrs. Wilson. After admitting Dorothy for initial tests, Michael took Grace home. Mr. Thompson, thank you so much for everything you're doing for my grandma. Grace, your grandmother did so much for me when I was a child. Now it's my turn to repay her. But you don't have to do this. I do, and I want to. On the way, Michael thought about his next step. He needed to address his mother's corruption. He couldn't just ignore it. Grace, I need to ask you something. Do you want your grandmother to be publicly recognized? For everyone to know she was wronged? What does that mean? It means I'll have to tell the truth about why she was fired. It might end up in the papers, on TV. Grace thought for a moment. My grandma always said the truth should be known, even if it hurts. I think she'd want everyone to know she wasn't a thief. Then we'll do it. In the following days, Michael worked with lawyers to prepare the complaint against his mother. He knew it would cause a huge scandal, but he couldn't live with the lie anymore. Dorothy stayed in the hospital for a week, undergoing tests and adjusting her medication. During that time, Michael visited her daily, sometimes bringing Grace along. Michael, I want you to know that no matter what happens with your mother, you'll always be like a son to me, Dorothy said during one visit. Dorothy, I'm so sorry for what my family did to you. You're not to blame, my boy. You were young, you didn't know. But now I do, and I'm going to make it right. Just be careful. Your mother is a powerful woman. She might try to retaliate. Michael knew Dorothy was right. Catherine Thompson wouldn't accept being exposed without a fight, and he was right. 3 days later, Jennifer entered his office with a worried expression. Michael, I need to talk to you. Your mother was here yesterday. My mother? What did she want? She was asking about your schedule, about the company's projects. It seemed like she was investigating something. Investigating what? I'm not sure. But she asked about your personal finances, recent expenses. Michael grew concerned. Catherine was clearly trying to uncover what he was doing. Jennifer, I need you to be very discreet about my schedule. Don't tell my mother anything. Of course, Michael, but may I ask why? It's complicated, family matters. That night, Michael received a call from Catherine. Michael, we need to talk. I've discovered some things about these people you're helping. What kind of things? I'd rather discuss it in person. Can you come to the house? I can't, I'm busy. Michael, this is important. These people are deceiving you. Mum, I'm not changing my mind. At least hear me out. You owe me that. Michael hesitated. Maybe it was better to hear what she had to say. Fine. I'll come. An hour later, Michael was at the mansion where he'd grown up. The house was grand, with manicured gardens and luxurious decor, a stark contrast to Dorothy's modest home. Sit down, Michael, Catherine said, gesturing to an armchair in the living room. What did you find out? I hired a private investigator to look into that woman and her granddaughter. You did what? I needed to know who you're getting involved with, and I found some interesting things. Catherine handed a folder to Michael Andrew. Dorothy isn't as innocent as she seems. She has a history of trouble with former employers. Michael Andrew opened the folder and saw several photos and documents. This is all lies, he said after examining the papers. It's not lies. She's been fired from other jobs for similar reasons. Mum, this is clearly fabricated. These dates don't even make sense. Michael Andrew, you're being blind. These people will take everything you have. Mum, I'm not changing my mind. Dorothy is an honest person, and I know that. And the girl? Do you know anything about her parents? Michael Andrew stopped. He truly knew nothing about Grace's parents. What kind of question is that? The girl is an orphan, Michael Andrew. Her parents died under suspicious circumstances. Suspicious how? They owed money to dangerous people. They were murdered over debts. Michael Andrew felt a chill. Is that true? Yes. And now those people might be after the girl. You're putting your life at risk. Mom, even if that's true, it doesn't change anything. Grace is an innocent child. Innocent? She found you at exactly the right time, with exactly the right story to move you. That's no coincidence. Michael Andrew began to feel confused. Could Grace really have been lying to him? Mom, even if some of this is true, it doesn't justify what you did to Dorothy. What I did was protect our family, and that's what I'm doing now. Protect from what? From doing the right thing? Protect from being destroyed by people who have nothing to lose. Michael Andrew stood up, angry. Mom, I won't abandon Dorothy and Grace. They need help. So you'll destroy everything we've built over strangers. They're not strangers. Dorothy was part of my life. She taught me values you never did. Values like what? Compassion, generosity, honesty. Catherine laughed bitterly. Honesty? You think the business world runs on honesty? It should. You're so naive, Michael Andrew. Always have been. That's why I've always had to protect you. Protect or control. Both. Because you don't have the instincts to survive in this world. Michael Andrew looked at his mother, seeing her more clearly than ever. Mum, maybe it's time I learned to live in the real world, not the one you created. The real world will destroy you, Michael Andrew. Maybe, but at least I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror every day. Michael Andrew headed for the door. Where are you going? To visit Dorothy. She's having surgery tomorrow. Michael Andrew, if you keep this up, I'll have to take drastic measures. What kind of measures? I can remove you from the company. I can cut off your access to the family resources. Do it, Mom. I'll survive. Without money, you're nothing. Michael Andrew paused at the door. Mom, I've learned something these past few days. Money really isn't everything. There are more important things. Like what? Like having a clear conscience. Like helping people in need. Like being the man Dorothy always believed I could be. Michael Andrew left the house, leaving Catherine alone in the luxurious living room. On his way to the hospital, he thought about the conversation with his mother. Could Grace really have been lying to him? Was that whole story a fraud? But when he arrived at the hospital and saw Dorothy in bed, preparing for surgery, all his doubts vanished. The genuine affection between her and Grace couldn't be faked. How are you feeling, Dorothy? Nervous, my son. It's been a long time since I've seen properly. I'm afraid of being disappointed if the surgery doesn't work. No matter the outcome, Dorothy, what matters is that you'll have the chance. I know, and that's already more than I ever hoped for. Grace was sitting beside the bed, holding her grandmother's hand. Grandma, you'll be okay. I know you will. Of course I will, my girl. I still have to take care of you for many more years. Michael Andrew Thompson watched the scene, feeling an emotion he couldn't explain. Those two women, despite all the hardships, had something he'd never experienced. Unconditional love. Grace, can I talk to you for a moment? He asked. They left the room and stepped into the hallway. Grace, I need to ask you something about your parents. Her expression changed immediately. My parents? Yes. Did your grandmother ever tell you about them? No, sir. She never talks about them. You don't remember them? Not much. I was very little when they left. Grandma always says they were good people, that they loved me very much. Grace, did they die in an accident? I don't really know. Grandma never told me the details. She said I was too young to understand. Michael could see the topic was painful for her. Would you like to know the truth? I think so. But I'm scared. Scared of what? Of finding out they did something wrong. Grandma always said they were good, but sometimes she got sad when she talked about them. Michael realized Grace was truly an innocent child, unaware of the circumstances of her parents' death. Grace, no matter what happened to your parents, it doesn't change anything about you. You're a special, smart, brave girl. You really think so? I do. And I'm sure your parents would be proud of you. Grace smiled, visibly relieved. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. You're like a father to me. Those words hit Michael like a blow. He realized, without meaning to, he'd become a father figure to Grace, and that both scared and moved him at the same time. Grace, I'll always be here for you and your grandmother. You can count on me. Promise? I promise. They returned to the room where Dorothy was waiting. What were you two talking about out there? About how lucky you are to have such a special granddaughter, Michael replied. I already knew that, Dorothy said with a smile. A nurse entered the room. Mrs. Baker, it's time for your surgery. Already? Grace asked nervously. Easy, girl. Everything will be fine, Dorothy said, kissing her granddaughter's forehead. Grandma, I'll be waiting here when you wake up. I know you will, my girl. Michael walked Dorothy to the surgical wing doors. Dorothy, good luck. I'll be here when you come out. Thank you, my son, for everything. Michael and Grace stayed in the waiting room for the 4 hours the surgery lasted. Grace was visibly nervous, and Michael tried to distract her by talking about school, her dreams for the future. Mr. Thompson, can I ask you something? Of course. Why are you helping us? I mean, why do you care so much about us? Michael thought about his answer. Grace, your grandmother helped me become a better person when I was a child. She taught me important things I'd forgotten. What kind of things? That it's important to care about others, that money isn't everything, that people matter more than business. Grandma always says that. And she's right. I spent a long time thinking money was the most important thing. But you and your grandmother showed me I was wrong. How? You two love each other for real. You take care of each other. You're happy even without much money. That's something I never had. Have you never been happy? Not in the way you are. I always had everything I wanted, but never what I truly needed. And what did you need? Real love, a real family. People who cared about me for who I am, not what I have. Grace grew thoughtful for a moment. You could be part of our family if you'd like. My grandma always says family isn't just about blood, but about who truly loves you. Michael Andrew Thompson felt his eyes fill with tears. You'd want that? For me to be part of your family? I'd love that. You're like a father to me. And I know my grandma loves you like a son. At that moment, Michael Andrew realized he had found what he'd been searching for his whole life, without knowing, a real family. Finally, the doctor stepped out of the operating room. How is she, doctor? Asked Michael Andrew, standing quickly. The surgery was a success. We managed to restore much of her vision. She won't see perfectly, but she'll be able to live a normal life. Will she be able to see me clearly? Grace asked eagerly. Yes, sweetheart. She'll be able to watch you grow up, graduate, get married, have children. Grace jumped with joy. Can I see her? She's still in recovery. You can visit her in a few hours. Over the next hours, Michael Andrew and Grace waited anxiously. Finally, they were called in to see Dorothy. She lay in bed, her eyes bandaged but awake. Grandma, how are you? Grace asked, holding her hand. I'm fine, my girl. I can see you. But your eyes are covered. I don't need my eyes to see you. You're in my heart. Michael Andrew stepped closer to the bed. Dorothy, the doctor said the surgery was successful. That's wonderful. But even if it hadn't been, I'd still be happy just knowing you care about me. Of course we care, Grandma. You're the most important person in the world to me. And you're the light of my life, my girl. Michael Andrew watched their tender exchange, feeling privileged to be part of it. Dorothy, once you've recovered, I want you and Grace to move to a better home. I've already found one in the next neighborhood. Small garden, more space. Michael Andrew, you've already done too much. I haven't done enough. I've done what I should have long ago. Grandma, is it true we're getting a new house? Grace asked excitedly. If Mr. Thompson insists. I do insist, and there's more. Grace will attend a private school. I've spoken to the principal of an excellent one. Mr. Thompson, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Grace. Just study hard and be happy. Dorothy tried to sit up. Michael Andrew, come here. He stepped closer, and she took his hand. I want you to know how proud I am of the man you've become. I always knew you had a good heart. You helped me find that heart, Dorothy. No, my son. It was always there. You just needed to remember where. The following days were spent in Dorothy's recovery. Michael Andrew visited daily, sometimes alone, sometimes with Grace. He began to understand what it meant to have a real family. Meanwhile, the situation with his mother grew complicated. Catherine had started spreading rumors about Michael Andrew in business circles, questioning his leadership. Jennifer informed him of the conversations his mother was having with the company's partners. Michael Andrew, your mother is trying to convince the other partners that you're going through a personal crisis. She's suggesting you should step away from the company temporarily. Is she trying to push me out of the company? It seems so. She says you're making irrational choices, that you're being influenced by people with bad intentions. Michael Andrew Thompson wasn't surprised. He knew his mother well and understood she wouldn't passively accept his decision. Jennifer, I need you to arrange a meeting with all the partners. I want to clarify a few things. Are you sure? Confronting your mother in front of the other partners could be dangerous. I'm sure. It's time to lay all the cards on the table. The meeting was scheduled for the following Friday. Michael spent the days before preparing, organizing all the documents Dorothy had shown him. On the morning of the meeting, he visited Dorothy in the hospital. She had already removed the bandages and could see more clearly. How are you feeling, Dorothy? Much better, my dear. I can see you properly now. And how do I look? Handsomer than I remembered, she smiled. But also more worried. What's going on? Michael told her about the situation with his mother and the upcoming meeting. Are you sure you want to do this? Dorothy asked. I am. I can't live with this lie anymore. You know this could change your life completely, right? I know, but maybe it's time for a change. Michael, I want you to know that no matter what happens, you'll always have a family. You'll always have me and Grace. Thank you, Dorothy. That means the world to me. The meeting took place in the company's conference room. Present were Michael, Catherine, and the three other main partners, Dr. Robert Williams, Dr. Philip Sanders, and Dr. Margaret Johnson. Well, Michael, your mother came to us with concerns about your recent decisions, Dr. Robert began. What kind of concerns? She says you're spending company money on personal causes, that you're making unauthorized donations. First, I didn't use company funds for anything. I used my own resources. Second, they weren't donations. They were reparations. Reparations? Dr. Margaret asked. Yes, I'm righting an injustice our family committed. Catherine shifted uncomfortably in her chair. What kind of injustice? Dr. Philip asked. Michael looked at his mother, then at the partners. 10 years ago, my mother wrongfully fired an employee. She fabricated a false accusation to get rid of someone who had uncovered some irregularities. What kind of irregularities? Dr. Robert asked. Corruption, inflated contracts with the city, public funds being diverted. Silence filled the room. All the partners turned to Catherine, who was visibly tense. Michael, do you have proof of these accusations? Dr. Margaret asked. I do. Michael opened the folder he had brought and spread the documents across the table. These are contracts my mother made with the city between 2010 and 2014, all of them inflated. Here's an example. A project that cost the city $15 million, but only took $8 million to complete. The partners examined the documents carefully. Catherine, do you have any explanation for this? Dr. Robert asked. These documents are forged. That woman is trying to extort my family. Mum, these are copies of the originals. They have signatures, stamps, everything that proves their authenticity. Catherine, if this is true, you've put the entire company at risk, Dr. Margaret said, and it's not true. My son is being manipulated by people who want our money. Mum, please, just tell the truth. Catherine looked around the table, seeing the partners' expressions of distrust. Fine, she finally said. Maybe I smoothed over some processes. But everyone did it back then. It was the only way to secure contracts. Made easy? Asked Dr. Philip. You stole public money. I built this company. I did what was necessary to grow. You put all of us at risk, said Dr. Robert, visibly irritated. And ruined an innocent person's life, added Michael Andrew. Catherine, do you understand this could lead to criminal charges? Asked Dr. Margaret. Criminal charges? You're exaggerating. We're not, Mom. This is corruption, forming a scheme, money laundering. You could go to jail. Catherine paled. Michael Andrew, you can't do this to your own mother. Mom, I'm not doing anything to you. You did this to yourself. Catherine, we need to discuss the next step, said Dr. Robert. First, you must immediately step away from any executive role in the company. You can't remove me from the company. I'm the majority shareholder. You are, but you can't hold an executive position while under investigation. Investigation? Who said anything about an investigation? We'll have to report this to the proper authorities, said Dr. Margaret. We have no choice. You're going to turn me in. Catherine, you committed serious crimes. We can't pretend this didn't happen. Catherine stood up, furious. You'll regret this. All of you. Mom, please don't make this harder. Harder. You destroyed our family, Michael Andrew. You chose strangers over your own mother. I chose to do the right thing, Mom. Something you should have done a long time ago. Catherine stormed out, slamming the door. The partners sat in silence for a moment. Michael Andrew, do you realize the magnitude of what just happened? Asked Dr. Robert. I do. But I couldn't live with this lie any longer. This will seriously impact the company, said Dr. Philip. I know, but maybe it's time to rebuild on solid ground. What about the employee who was harmed? Asked Dr. Margaret. She's being taken care of. I'm arranging medical treatment for her and education for her granddaughter. That's the least we can do, said Dr. Robert. Agreed, said Dr. Margaret. Let's draft an official statement taking responsibility for past mistakes. Michael Andrew felt an enormous relief. Finally, the truth was out. After the meeting, Michael Andrew went straight to the hospital. He found Dorothy and Grace in the physical therapy room, where Dorothy was doing eye exercises. How was the meeting? Dorothy asked as soon as she saw him. Hard, but necessary. The truth came out. And your mother? She didn't take it well. But that was expected. Are you okay? I am. For the first time in a long time, I'm at peace with myself. Grace walked up to him. Mr. Michael Andrew, does this mean my grandma will be cleared? That everyone will know she did nothing wrong? It does, Grace. Your grandmother's name will be cleared. Dorothy began to cry. I never thought I'd see this day. 10 years carrying this stain, and now you're free, Dorothy. Free to start over at 65. She laughed through her tears. Age doesn't matter when you have a family who loves you. Michael Andrew looked at Grace, who was hugging her grandmother. Speaking of family, I have a proposal for you. What proposal? Grace asked, curious. How about you two move into a house near mine? That way I can always be close to help with whatever you need. Are you serious? Dorothy asked. Very serious. I found a lovely house, 3 bedrooms, a garden, near a good school for Grace. Mr. Michael Andrew, but that must cost a fortune. Grace, money isn't the problem. The problem is being apart from you. Grandma, can we say yes? Grace asked excitedly. I think we can, sweetheart. I think we can. The following months brought big changes. Dorothy and Grace moved into the new house, which quickly became a real home. Michael Andrew spent most of his free time with them, discovering what it meant to have a true family. Catherine was formally reported and was facing criminal charges. She had completely isolated herself, refusing to speak to Michael Andrew. The company underwent a complete restructuring. Michael Andrew took over as president and implemented strict policies of transparency and social responsibility. Grace adapted quickly to her new school and was excelling in all her subjects. She had made new friends and was participating in extracurricular activities. Dorothy, with her vision restored, had returned to cooking, one of her passions. She insisted on preparing meals for Michael Andrew, saying he was too thin. "Michael Andrew, you need to eat more," she said, serving him a generous portion of beef stew. "Dorothy, I've never eaten so well in my life. You need looking after. I've never seen anyone work so much." "It's not work when you love what you do." "And you love it?" "I do. I'm rebuilding the company in a way I can be proud of." Grace was studying at the kitchen table doing her homework. "Uncle Michael Andrew, can you help me with math?" She had started calling him uncle, and he loved it. "Of course, princess. What's the trouble?" "I don't understand this equation." Michael Andrew sat beside her and began explaining. He discovered he had patience for teaching and that Grace was truly very smart. "I got it," she exclaimed after solving the problem. "You're very bright, Grace. I'm sure you'll go far in life. I want to be like you when I grow up. I want to help people." "You already help people, princess. You helped me find my real family." Dorothy, who had been listening, came closer. "Michael Andrew, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you miss your old life? The luxury, the parties, the rich friends?" Michael Andrew thought for a moment. "You know, Dorothy, I thought I would, but I realized that was never really my life. It was just an act." "What do you mean?" "I did those things because I thought it was expected of me, but I was never truly happy. Here with you, I feel at home." "Even after losing so much?" "I didn't lose anything, Dorothy. I gained a family." Grace got up from the table and hugged Michael Andrew. "I love you, Uncle Michael Andrew." "I love you too, Princess. You two are the most important people in my life." "And you're the son I always wanted," Dorothy said, tears in her eyes. Michael Andrew felt a deep emotion. For the first time in his life, he knew what it meant to love and be loved unconditionally. 6 months later, Michael Andrew decided to officially adopt Grace. She had no living relatives besides Dorothy, and he wanted to ensure she had all possible legal security. "Grace, would you like me to officially be your father?" "Father?" She looked at him with shining eyes. "That's right. I want to adopt you if you agree." "Grandma, did you hear?" Grace ran to hug Dorothy. "I did, my girl, and I think it's a wonderful idea. Does that mean you'll be my real father?" "I already am your real father, Princess, but now it'll be official." "And Grandma? Will she be my official grandma too?" "Of course, we're a family." The adoption process was quick, since Grace had no other relatives who could contest it. Michael Andrew hired the best lawyers to ensure everything was done properly. On the day of the court hearing, Grace was nervous. "Dad, what if the judge says no?" "He won't, Princess. Everything is in order." "What if he asks if I really want to be adopted?" "You'll tell the truth, that you love me and want to officially be part of our family." The hearing was a formality. The judge, Judge Mark Anderson, was impressed by Michael Andrew Thompson's determination and Grace's maturity. "Grace, do you understand what it means to be adopted?" the judge asked. "Yes, sir. It means I'll have a real father who will always take care of me. And you, Mr. Michael Andrew Thompson, are you prepared to take on all the responsibilities of being a father?" "Yes, Your Honor. Grace is already my daughter in every way. Now we just want it to be official." "Very well. The adoption is granted. Grace, your name is now Grace Thompson." "Thompson?" She looked at Michael, surprised. "Now you're officially my daughter. You have my last name." Grace jumped into Michael's arms, crying with joy. "Dad, I have a dad. And I have an amazing daughter." Dorothy, who was in the audience, also cried with emotion. "My family is complete," she whispered. After the hearing, they went to celebrate at a restaurant. Grace couldn't stop repeating her full name. "Grace Thompson, Grace Thompson. Dad, I love how that sounds." "I love it too, Princess. Now I have a dad and a grandma. I'm the luckiest girl in the world." "No, Grace, I'm the luckiest man in the world." During dinner, Dorothy made a toast. I want to toast to our family, proof that true love can overcome any obstacle. To our family, Michael repeated. To our family, Grace said, raising her glass of soda. That night, Michael reflected on the journey he had taken. It had all started with a girl asking for his coat. Who could have guessed that moment would change his life completely? He had lost his mother, at least temporarily. He had faced scandals, lawsuits, and the distrust of some colleagues. But he had gained something far more valuable, a real family and the peace of mind that comes from doing the right thing. He looked at Grace, asleep on the couch, still wearing the new dress he had bought for the hearing. She looked so small, so fragile, but he knew she was strong. She had endured hardships many adults couldn't bear. Dorothy came over and sat beside him. "What are you thinking about, son?" "I'm thinking about how much my life has changed. A year ago, I was an empty man, focused only on money and power. Now you're a father and a son. You have a family who loves you. Dorothy, I want to thank you for everything, for teaching me important values when I was little, for forgiving my family for what we did to you, for giving me the chance to meet Grace. You don't have to thank me, Michael. You've done more for us than we could ever repay. I didn't do anything extraordinary. I just did what was right. Not everyone would have done what you did. You chose the hard but right path. And I don't regret it for a second. I know you don't. You're a man of character. I learned that from you, Dorothy. No, son, it was always in you. You just needed to remember." Michael looked at Grace, who shifted on the couch. "She's special, isn't she? Very special. She kept me going all these years. When I was discouraged, ready to give up, she gave me strength to keep going. Now she'll have every opportunity she deserves. Yes, and she'll honor everything you're doing for her. She already does, Dorothy. Just by existing, she makes me want to be a better person." Dorothy smiled. "That's what a daughter does to a father, teaches you to love unconditionally. And a mother does the same for her son," Michael said, looking at Dorothy. "I've always loved you like a son, Michael, ever since you were a little boy. And I've always loved you like a mother. I just didn't know how to recognize it. Now you do, and that's what matters." They sat in silence for a moment, watching Grace sleep. "Dorothy, I want to ask you something. Are you happy?" "Happier than I ever imagined I could be. I have my health back. My granddaughter is safe and well raised, and I have a son who loves me. What more could I want?" "Nothing. We have everything we need." "Yes, my son, we have everything." Michael Andrew carried Grace to her room and laid her in bed. She stirred for a moment. "Dad?" "Yes, Princess?" "Today was the best day of my life." "Mine too, sweetheart. Mine too." "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, Princess. More than you can imagine." Grace fell back asleep, and Michael Andrew watched her for a few minutes. He couldn't believe this brave little girl was now his daughter. When he left the room, he found Dorothy in the kitchen making coffee. "Would you like some coffee, son?" "Yes, Mom." It was the first time he had called her Mom, and they both felt emotional. "Mom," he repeated, liking the sound of the word. "My son," she replied, hugging him. "Dorothy, I promise I'll take care of you and Grace forever." "I know you will, my son. I know you will." They sat at the kitchen table drinking coffee and talking about the future. For the first time in a long while, Michael Andrew felt complete. "You know, Dorothy, I've been thinking about something." "What?" "How all of this started. Grace asking for my coat. And you gave it to her." "I did, but really she gave me so much more than I gave her." "How so?" "She gave me a family. She gave me purpose. She gave me the chance to be a better person." "You gave each other exactly what you needed." "Exactly. She needed a father. I needed a daughter. You needed a son. I needed a mother. And we all needed true love." "Yes. And now we have it." Michael Andrew looked around the simple but cozy kitchen. It wasn't luxurious like the mansion he'd grown up in, but it was a real home. "Dorothy, do you think I made the right choice?" What choice? Confronting my mother, revealing the truth, giving up an easier life. Michael Andrew, look around you. You have a daughter who loves you unconditionally. You have a real family. You can look at yourself in the mirror every day without shame. Don't you think that's worth it? It is. It's absolutely worth it. Then you made the right choice. And you, Dorothy, do you forgive me for what my family did? My son I forgave a long time ago. Holding on to bitterness only hurts the one who carries it. I chose to forgive and move forward. You're a wise woman. I'm a woman who's learned that love is stronger than hate, that forgiveness is more powerful than revenge. You taught me that? No, my son. You learned it on your own. I just showed you the way. Michael Andrew finished his coffee and stood up. I'm going to bed. Tomorrow's an important day. Why? I'm announcing at the company that you'll be working with us as a social responsibility consultant. Michael Andrew, I don't need to work. You've already done so much for me. It's not about need, Dorothy, it's about fairness. You have so much to contribute. Your experience, your wisdom, your ability to see what truly matters. Are you sure? I'm sure. Besides, I want everyone to know you're part of our family, that you have our respect and admiration. Thank you, my son. That means the world to me. It means the world to me too. Good night, Mum. Good night, son. Michael Andrew went to his room but stopped by Grace's first. She was sleeping peacefully, hugging the teddy bear he'd bought her. Good night, Princess, he whispered, kissing her forehead. Good night, Dad, she murmured without opening her eyes. He smiled and went to his room. Before falling asleep, he looked out the window at the small garden where Dorothy had planted some flowers. Everything was perfect, simple but perfect. For the first time in a long while, Michael Andrew fell asleep with a smile on his face, knowing he had found his place in the world. The end of the story. So what did you think of the story of Michael, Grace, and Dorothy? Could you feel the emotion of this family that came together in such a special way? Tell us in the comments which part touched you the most. And if you have a similar story in your family or know someone who's gone through something like this, share it with us. We love hearing your experiences. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.